welcome to the Sawyer On Water podcast. This is a podcast where we discuss most things human-powered on water, river, lakes, and oceans. And today we are returning back to our boat builder series, and we are actually introducing another chapter of our episodes in collaboration with Paul Clark. Paul Clark we've done quite a bit of work with over the years, and he is actually on the road and connecting up with a handful of our boat builders around the country. And today, Paul is interviewing Sean and Trevor with Boulder Boat Works. Boulder Boat Works is located in Carbondale, Colorado, and they make a welded polymer drift boat. So it's very durable, very light, very nimble, quite a bit more durable than a fiberglass boat. And then they finish it out with wooden accents. So it has wooden chairs, wooden casting braces, wooden rails. And of course, that makes the boat look really sharp, really classy, stands out. But also, it pairs up quite nicely with all Sawyer Oars that are also made out of wood. So please enjoy this discussion with Paul Clark and Boulder Boat Works.
Hi, everyone. I'm Paul Clark here in Carbondale, Colorado with the Sawyer Boat Builders podcast series. I'm with Trevor and Sean at Boulder Boat Works, and they are the pioneers in polymer drift boats. So tell us about your company.
Yeah, so Boulder Boat Works has been around for about 25 years now. Started down in Boulder. A guy named Andy Toohey started it. He'd been building wooden drift boats, mostly just for floating whitewater stuff, not necessarily for fishing, and just realized it was just too much upkeep to be doing the wood stuff. And so it was kind of right around the same time that polymer-based kayaks were coming out. And so he found this material that we use now, and welded the first boats right around end of 1999, 2000, and then now 25 years later, we're building polymer drift boats, still trimming them out in wood to make them pretty and fit the aesthetic that we want, but get the durability and all that of the polymer.
What's your role? I know you're the or so you wear the many hats.
Yeah, so owner, director of operations. I don't know what's my technical role or job title.
Lead production.
Yeah, just I kind of do a little bit of anything and everything. It's just Sean and I, and then two other guys here in the shop. We've got Caleb does all of our woodwork, and then Eric, who's back behind me right now working, does a little bit of everything as well. Some small parts welding and some boat assembly. And I just try to keep myself busy and float around and do the whole welding, and then a lot of the assembly stuff as well.
Sean, you're one of those that wear many hats too. It sounds like you're in sales.
Yeah, kind of run all of our commercial operations. So website, marketing, all the sales. I always say that I kind of have the fun, easy job. I get to be out on the river with our clients a bunch and, talking about the boats and selling the boats. And these guys are in here with the sweat and hard work building them. So.
What's the easy sell? Why would a person want a polymer drift boat?
I mean, the biggest difference is the polymer, in my opinion. A lot of the industry has been, fiberglass and aluminum for a long time. And the polymer, it's a naturally buoyant material. It's flexible. It's quiet. A lot of it does really well in low water conditions, which is kind of a new norm here. So really it's the material, it's the polymer that sets us apart from the industry.
Yeah, and one thing Sean didn't say is that kind of the biggest factor that everyone talks about when it comes to drift boats is weight. And we are by far on the lowest end of that spectrum that you can be as far as a 16-foot boat goes, whether it's our low side, high side, or skiff. Our raw hull weight is less than 200 pounds, which is pretty wild when you look at other ways of manufacturing a drift boat, and still getting all of those key factors. And so it's sitting in a little bit less water. So it's, easier to maneuver all that stuff. And it's just loading and unloading on the trailer. It's night and day different.
When Boulder Boat Works began in Boulder, Colorado, it was wood. When did the transfer take place, the materials?
The company itself started around the polymer.
Okay.
But prior to that, Andy was a woodworker, carpenter, kind of jack of all trades type of guy, super, super talented individual. And he had built some wooden doors for himself and some friends and stuff like that. And so the polymer really came around when the business inception was. And we're still using a fair bit of wood. We're using white ash. We're using some African mahogany as interior stuff, and then structure around the top of the outside, the gunnels. But the polymer itself has been around for that 25 years with really little to no change in the material itself. And our processes are essentially the same. They're just a lot more efficient now than they were 25 years ago because we've learned as we went. And we've been in this shop in Carbondale for almost 8 years now. And we've really tried to dial in on being as efficient as possible as we can. And so, but the actual build of the boat is still the same. We're just doing it a little bit differently.
Tell me about the different boats. It sounds like you have 3 in a series.
Yeah, so we have 3 hull profiles. We have our high side dory, our low side dory, and our river skiff. All kind of, built the same way. The high side and low side are very similar in construction. The bow is about 9 inches shorter on the low side. So better for, lower gradient rivers, spots where you're, in the wind a little bit more, but you still want the maneuverability of the dory. And then our river skiff is built for more of those bigger tailwaters up north, more stable. We still have a good amount of rocker. So, in the relativity of river skiffs in the industry, it's still pretty nimble, and then still all the benefits of that polymer construction, just lower sides, better sight lines, and more stable platform.
Name some rivers that your boats are populating pretty regularly. Obviously here in central Colorado, but where else?
So high side wise, a few of the rivers that come to mind, obviously our rivers here, the Colorado, the Roaring Fork, the Green River is a great high side river. We have boats throughout the entire U.S. We've got a lot of high sides up in the Pacific Northwest on some of those rivers. Low side rivers, I think that's a great boat for like the Gunnison River here in Colorado, up on the North Platte, the Snake River are kind of like the few that come to my mind. And then the skiff is definitely more of that like bigger tailwater river, the Madison, the Bitterroot, all that stuff up in Montana, the Boise, all that stuff is great skiff water. So, and some people, depending on kind of their rowing skill, they run our skiffs in waters around here in Colorado. It's just kind of, what fits your program. When I'm talking to people on the phone, it's really more about them than us in the boat. I like to understand where they're going to be, who they're going to be fishing with, where they're going to be kind of 80% of the time. And that's usually kind of how I steer them towards the boat. And then, they can all get it done that additional 15-20% of the time. It's just kind of what they're going to be doing, most of the time in the boat. So.
And what I'm noticing by being invited into your factory, the handcrafted nature of the building from scratch.
Yep.
You're doing it all, from building the rocker profile. Talk about from moment one to when the boat leaves. What's the process?
Yeah, so we do everything in-house, start to finish. There's, I don't know, maybe 5 parts that we don't build in-house, which is, seats and flooring and stuff like that. But any wood part that goes on the boat, the hull itself, we do here in-house. It all starts as raw. The polymer material starts as raw sheet goods. We mill it down to shape and size based on what we're doing. And then we actually have a large extrusion welder that we weld all that stuff together around jigs and forms and things like that. And then back in the wood shop, Caleb does every single piece of wood that goes on the boat. So he's milling 12-foot long boards down into to gunnels, which is the top rim around the outside. He's laying up in a vacuum bag the rear knee brace, and hand forming all the front leg locks. And so what we do is we build all the polymer parts, we build all the wood parts, and then we meet right here, right behind us on these rocker tables. They'll hold the shape of the hole while we're building on it. And so start to finish, we're anywhere from 90 to 130 hours for a whole boat build. And we try to keep everything as close to home as we possibly can. And we're doing, I don't know, about a boat a week roughly. We've got some inventory boats. A lot of our boats are custom builds yet, but we try to do all of it at one time. So once we start a boat, we'll try to finish that one boat before we move on to something else.
And of course, in this modern climate where we're really talking about manufacturing and outsourcing, built in America, I mean, you're definitely built in America. And we don't necessarily need to get into the politics or even certain elements of it, but how is the current state of affairs for being an American builder, getting supplies?
Yeah.
Is that something you could address?
Yeah, so we're still in pretty darn good shape right now. Like we're very fortunate that nearly every part and piece that goes on our boat is also built here in America. So some of the things, hardware and things like that, we outsource, and seats, it's up to manufacturer where they're getting them, but it hasn't slowed down our process much at all. As far as the wood, it's a domestic product. White ash is grown here right in the U.S. Our polymer is built right in Florida. And so the main components to the boat, we haven't really been slowed down on. It's right now it's hit or miss on what prices they're going to do for some of those purchased items. But as of now, we're still in pretty darn good shape. We're feeling pretty good about it.
That's fantastic.
And Ian, the other thing with our process is they're a little bit more old school, with jigs and forms and stuff like that. But what that does is it allows us to maximize all of our materials without waste and scrap. I think we really try to eliminate all that. Cool part about our material is actually 100% recyclable. So what we're not using and putting into the boat, we're able to recycle, and not just throw in the landfill, which I think is a pretty cool thing. So like, you could break one of these boats down and every polymer component you could recycle at the end of the day.
That seems like to be the ethos of this entire community. Up the Roaring Gorge,
Roaring Fork,
River
yep.
Valley, the Crystal River Valley.
Yep.
You see houses with solar panels. You have kids running around and being athletic coming in to here. It's just an extension of a community. This is a great place to be a boat builder and to actually be at the oars of these things.
Yeah, and you mentioned it earlier. We started in Boulder, and we were in Boulder for close to 15 years. We made a move to Longmont, which is up in that same area. And when we moved here 8 years ago, that was the big driving factor, was that from either direction we're within 4 miles to a boat ramp, and we can put on at 2:00 right after work. You can go right first thing in the morning. We can take customers who are coming to pick up their boat, or they want to come try something out, if they've never rowed a skiff before. We've got an opportunity to do that same day. And so being super close to the river and in a tight-knit community that there's a lot of emphasis put on for being on the water and hunting and fishing and all that stuff, it's just a really good place to be.
And we can put our boats kind of through the ringer too. There's some great water, there's some low water scenarios around here where we can kind of push the limits on the holes and what they can handle. Big water, during runoff, so we're able to really kind of push and test our product. And also being in a river community, we host the Roaring Fork Fishing Guide Alliance party here every year. So we're a part of the community, the river community, and we try to give back and just be live it and not just make boats. So we want to be out there on the river as much as possible.
And here's a basic question. I'm a paddleboarder. I love the aesthetic of a drift boat. But why drift boat? Why not rubber? Why not other craft? Why do you still hold strong to that beautiful drift boat design?
I think it comes back to functionality, really. Obviously the aesthetic is great, but the functionality of drift boat, it's really our boats specifically are designed around fishing, fly fishing, even more so nowadays. So we think about the design and the layout, storage, rod storage. We think about, line catch and what would, be a line catch and how we can eliminate that. So that's really, I think, the benefit. It's cleaner, it's more organized, it's dry, it's comfortable. So I think those are kind of the benefits of a true like fishing boat versus a raft, which is designed to get down, bigger water. And, the newer trend is to build it out with a fishing frame. But really, a lot of that just equates to, being wet, being cold, catching your line on a lot of different stuff. And I think you eliminate that with a drift boat.
Fishermen who are just getting into drift boating, what are some words of wisdom to set them up for success?
I mean, if we're going to be talking about our boats, I think they're more forgivable. Forgiving. It's not even a word. Forgiving. So, because the material itself is flexible, is lightweight, you can kind of bump and grind down the river. If you are new to rowing a boat, you can kind of get away with making some mistakes a little bit versus, if you interact with some bigger rocks in other boats, it might not go as great. So they're forgiving. We started a little row school this year, and we're also just trying to help people learn how to read rivers and honestly, like, etiquette, I think, is a big word in the industry right now. And we really want to try to help people know that etiquette of the rivers, of the boat ramps, when you see a wade angler, in the river, kind of how to communicate. I think communication is the biggest thing that, you aren't taught unless you actually take a class or you learn from someone. So we're trying to step up and, with more people on the water, teach that etiquette, teach that like safety and what, and open the door up to more people, being able to participate.
And the weight of your boats and the durability of your boats are an easy win. What do you do? Do you have to do anything to win over those old school rowers who've had all the different materials before and are looking for something a little different? What's the sales pitch for those guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think the beautiful part of this whole thing is like there's a time and a place for every kind of boat, in my opinion, right? There's different ways of construction, there's different boat styles, there's things that you might like out of a certain boat that's different than what we can do. But what we have is we have a full range of build options, right? You can start with having a aluminum interior frame in your boat, all the way up to fully kitted out with bright finish wood. And so what we're trying to do is give optionality to folks and say, hey, if you've had fiberglass before, here's the benefits of our boat over fiberglass. If you're, the old school guy who's had a wood boat and then a fiberglass boat and an aluminum boat, we kind of have points from all of those that are major benefits to what we're doing. And so at the end of the day, the biggest thing that we have is the positives of the boat, the weight, the durability, all that. And then the aesthetic is really the thing that hopefully brings that guy in at the end and says, well, if I'm left between fiberglass or beautiful wood interior boat, the wood kind of hopefully seals the deal there at the end.
I think we have two kinds of customers that when they're attracted to our boats. Number one is the durability of the boats. I think that brings a lot of people in. And number two is the aesthetic, right? So you've got guys that want the durability, and you've got guys that are attracted to the aesthetic of the wood and the woodwork and the craftsmanship. And I think obviously there's some crossover there, but when I'm talking to people, those are kind of the two the two people that come across, my desk when I'm talking to them. So,
Tell me your website, your social media, how to get a hold of you guys.
website www.boulderboatworks.com. We're on Instagram, Facebook. You just search Boulder Boat Works and we're there. We're out on the river all the time as well. And, our boats, they're not as prevalent as some other boats in the industry, but, if you're out on the water and if you ever see one at a boat ramp, I'd tell you to chat up our owners. They're usually pretty excited to share their experience with our boats and, what they like about them and what the benefits are. And, I can tell you that as, all the time, but hearing it from someone that's on the water, I think, goes pretty far too. So yeah, if you see a boat on the water, like go check it out, look at it, ask questions, and, reach out if you have any questions.
And I love seeing Sawyer a part of your outfitting. So tell us about how Sawyer and Boulder Boat Works work together.
Yeah, so Sawyer makes basically every oar that we put in a boat, from our spare oar to our actual oars for the boat, and it's the same deal, right? There's a bunch of oar options out there, but there's a couple things that set Sawyer apart, and it's their build quality and the aesthetic. And so, like their V-Lam oars next to our wood finished dory, there's nothing that really beats it. They're lightweight. They've got some spring to them that we really like. And at the end of the day, like, we just haven't had an experience where we said, man, I need something different. These have met and exceeded our expectations for, 20 years now.
And I think they pair really well with our boats, because our boats are lighter weight, that natural wood material, just the flex and the pop that you get with that, I just think translates really well to our boats, because they're light. I always tell people, the oar is like the motor of our boats, right? So why, spend all this money and time designing a boat and then, put an oar in it that isn't going to be, fun to row or match, the characteristics of the boat. And I think Sawyer does that really well with our boats. Is, they just pair really well with, the weight and the design of our boats. So I'm partial, but I think Sawyer makes the best oar in the game. So.
Is it the V-Lam that you row with?
Yeah, I have the square top, shoal cut V-Lam blade. I think the shoal cut blade is newer to the industry. I love it. Our rivers around here can get pretty skinny and they have a lot of really skinny shoals. So to be able to still get that purchase from that shoal cut blade, you can feather the oars a lot more in that skinny water. Like, to me, I love it. And, I think it's what you're used to. A lot of guys swear by the wide blade. Some of the guys running bigger water like the narrow blade, cause you can, still get good purchase, but it's not too much. Whenever I start rowing a wide blade or a traditional blade now, it feels clunky to me, cause I'm just so used to how like clean the shoal cut blade grabs that water, but, to each their own. And, we carry it all. And, we have square tops, and we also run the smoker, Dynolite, which is kind of, I think, the first oar that we were putting into our boats. Just the natural flex of that. It's also white ash, that they make that out of, just translates really well. So
if you had people who were driving by and they needed some oars, would you be able to sell them?
Yeah.
Or are they part of your packages?
Oh no. Come on by. We sell oars, we sell anchors, we sell anchor rope, we sell, we want to be the boat shop here in the valley as well. So, if you need a carabiner or you lost your oar in the river, or, forgot at the boat ramp, like, we want to be the shop that you guys reach out to and get your boat stuff. So.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for the information on your company. I'm stoked to be on the water with you a little bit later this afternoon to see what your boats do. Thank you for being a part of this Sawyer Boat Builders series. And I look forward to being on the water with you. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Well, we hope you enjoyed that episode with Boulder Boat Works. And if you did enjoy that episode, please tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your river community, and share the word with your audience. We'd love to hear comments from you. And if you have any questions about Paddles and Oars product, please check us out at paddlesandoars.com. And till next time, remember, when you get out on the water, be patient, be calm, and we will see you on the river.